Hey, this is Joe from Home Studio Corner. In this video, I'm going to show you a very simple but powerful EQ trick for dealing with ring on a snare drum. Now, there's a good chance you already know this trick, and if so, you can just move on along. But I would be remiss not to talk about it here occasionally on the channel because it really is one of those game changer things that you can do. So, big picture, you're recording a drum kit, or you're just mixing a recorded drum kit. The snare drum, the one that goes ka, sometimes goes kung. It has a ring to it. And that ring, for a lot of people, is a bad thing. They think, no, must get rid of the ring. And in true get it right at the source mindset, they'll start to put moon gel and other dampening stuff on that snare drum to try to get rid of the ring. In doing so, sometimes you kill the snare. It doesn't sound as good afterward. You might get rid of the ring, but then the tone of the snare might not be great. Here's an exception to my get it right at the source rule, where I will use a single EQ plugin on a snare drum to take care of the ringing, but still allowing a lot of that good vibey stuff to happen. Just hear me out. When you record a snare drum, if it has a lot of ring to it, don't get rid of it right away. In the context of the entire drum mix, it might be the very thing that brings some life to the snare drum. And then later down the road, if you decide, yeah, that's too much ring, it's coming through louder than everything else, then you can do this EQ trick to take it out. You don't have to go dampen the drum to get rid of the ring. You can easily get rid of it later with EQ because it's a very specific frequency. So let me show you what I would do here. First, let's listen to this drum kit. This is a kit recorded right behind me in this room. I just have like an EQ and compressor on the drum bus, but everything else is just dry. So you hear the snare drum, it's got some whack to it, but it's got a definite ring to it. Can you identify the frequency? Can you hum the frequency? Let me play it again and then start humming it when you hear it. That's the frequency. Kind of sounds like when Bono gets hyper and he's like, was that Bono? Anyway, so let's deal with that. I'm going to grab Pro EQ. You can use whatever your stock EQ is in your system. One of the cool things about these more generic parametric EQs is they allow you to do really narrow cuts, otherwise known as a notch filter. So we're going to take this low mid band here and we're going to boost it and we're going to start to narrow that down. We can do that by adjusting the Q control. Q stands for something, but it means width. It's some sort of mathematical formula. Quality, I think is what it stands for, but it means the width of the EQ. If we go down here, we're boosting everything. If we go here, we're really just boosting that one little frequency. So we're going to go fairly narrow to find the frequency, then we'll narrow it up even more and we will cut it. So generally speaking, those rings that you hear will be anywhere between 150 and 400 maybe as a starting point. It's going to be somewhere in this kind of a mid to low mid range. So let's go find that frequency. To make it easier, let's just solo the snare. When you first do it, you might boost it down here at 200 and it goes goo goo and you think, oh, that sounds bad. That's probably the one. It's actually not the one. Remember, before we grab the EQ, we already found the frequency. We're looking for this note right here, so let's find it. That's a note, yeah. That's a note, yeah. All right, so now we can take our Q control, turn that up real high, see if we're still hearing the ring. Okay, I moved it up just a little bit and that ringing sound got even louder, which means we've honed in a little bit more on the frequency. And now we just pull it down. So for dramatic purposes, I'm going to pull it down like that and listen to the snare drum. It pretty much sounds the same, but now it doesn't have the ring. That's it. Now, if the ring is louder and it's getting picked up on the overall drum kit itself, just do this same EQ, but instead of doing it on the snare drum track, do it on the overall drum track, because nobody else in the kit is going to ring at this exact frequency. So you're essentially removing a frequency without really changing the tone of anything else. So now this snare, this whole drum kit went from being boom, coo, boom, coo, or coo, to boom, ka, boom, boom, ka. And now if we decide, well, I want a little bit of that ring back in, we can just adjust the amount of this cut to bring some of the ring back in like this. One thing I have to talk about it because somebody's going to do this. You're going to go back to the soloed snare, and after we've cut this frequency, you're going to listen. And you're going to say, I hear more frequencies. There's a and maybe another one like a up there. You're going to want to go and start cutting all of them. Don't cut it unless it's actually something you hear in the mix. The reason we cut this frequency is because when we went back to our drum mix and hit play, goo 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 goo, that was one of the loudest frequencies in the mix. It was just out of balance. We talk about balance all the time. That 319 hertz was just too loud. So we went and found the source, which was the snare drum, and we brought it down to get it in balance. So yes, there will always be other ringing frequencies on a snare drum or any drum in particular. You don't have to go find all of those. That is a rabbit trail that will essentially completely destroy your snare drum. It'll sound super boring by the time you get rid of all the rings. Get the one that you hear in the mix. Don't worry about the others that you hear in solo. Those higher frequencies, don't care because I don't hear those ringing out in the drum mix. All right, that's it for me. If you liked this, then you'll probably like my 5-step mixing guide. It's completely free. You can get it at 5stepmix.com, and that gets you on my email list. A lot of fun stuff happening there. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.